Hello and welcome back to another Fear the Walking Dead video, and today we'll be talking about Dwight and Sherry, and are the final 6 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead setting up Dwight and Sherry crossing over to Dead City in its 2nd or maybe 3rd season. The reason why I am saying this is because we know episode 9 is called The Sanctuary, and that's the episode where Dwight and Sherry and June will be heading back to Virginia to go back to the old house and to revisit the Sanctuary. It will be a lot like episode 4 from part 1 with Morgan, and that sets up Morgan leaving off to go find Rick. Episode 9 could be the episode that sets up Dwight and Sherry being like, we need to go off and start a new life, and they might bump into Negan in Dead City by accident, or they are going out the way to hunt down Negan so they can move on with their lives once they finally reunite with him and say what they have to say, or kill Negan. That could be the setup for this crossover, because we know episode 9 will be about dealing with their demons from their past. And personally, I think if they're going to cross over, and I definitely do think Dwight will end up on Dead City, the fans will scream loud enough and eventually they'll be like, okay, hop him over. I definitely do think when they go over to Dead City, they're going to be there actively hunting down Negan. And I definitely think that's the only way that Sherry will ever move on. Dwight has been able to move on from Negan, but Sherry hasn't. And I do not think Sherry will die in the last 6 episodes. I think she'll be the factor behind them being like, let's go find him. Let's go hunt down Negan and actually say what we need to say to him so we can get over this. Or they go off with the intent to go kill Negan and they see what he has become. And maybe it'd be very interesting with Negan maybe slipping back into old Negan. You would then have Dwight coming back and he would have to team up with Maggie to maybe go and find Negan and to pull him back from going over the edge yet again. The only issue with this is that we know Dwight, Sherry and June will be going back to Georgia for episodes 10, 11 and 12, and it feels very weird and dumb because we know they're going to be in the final episode. Dwight and Sherry were in the final episode. We got a shot of Sherry being covered in blood for the final episode, and I'm like, why are you going to do this big, like, Walking Dead Sanctuary episode to probably set up Dwight and Sherry for a crossover if they're just going to come back? It feels very weird for the story, and I personally would have written episode 9 as those characters' final episode. It does kind of clash with, you have 6 episodes to have Troy be the villain, and 1 episode is just going to be about Dwight and Sherry in a completely different state, with June, I keep forgetting June's of course there, and those 3 kind of going off and doing their own thing. It feels very weird, and the way that Fear tells bottle episodes, this episode does take away from the final episodes because it's going to have no tie-in to Troy. It's going to be all about Negan and probably set up for a crossover. The reason why I think it's a crossover is because it makes the most sense. And why are we getting this Dwight and Sherry episode now? But you could have gotten it years ago, but they're waiting for the final 6 episodes so that they could have Dwight and Sherry go to Dead City. It makes sense. We know that the Walking Dead universe is still expanding, and Gimple doesn't want stuff to end. We know there's probably going to be a Fear spin-off, and Dwight and Sherry are easily one of the most popular, or Dwight, should I correct myself, is easily one of the most popular characters on Fear, and you're not going to give him his own spin-off, so how about you move him over to the show that's currently dealing with the Saviors, as he's an ex-Savior. It makes a lot of sense story-wise. The only issue, or the only spanner in this works is, what are we going to do with Sherry? Because I feel like you could have an interesting dynamic between Dwight and Negan on Dead City, but adding Sherry in there, she's just going to want to kill Negan, and you can never have that interesting dynamic with her. And you have that also issue with June, because now Dwight, Sherry and June are now a weird trio. Maybe we won't be getting just Walking Dead characters hopping over to a new show. It'd be really cool to have June hop over with Dwight and Sherry, because I think those 3 characters are not going to die. We know they are in the final episode. We saw some shots of them filming it, and I definitely think after these characters are finished with defending Padre from Troy, Dwight and Sherry and maybe June will be like, well, let's go find Negan. Let's go put this demon that's been living over our lives. like rent-free in our minds, controlling us for all this time. Let's go get rid of him. And it makes a lot of sense with Dwight and Sherry, especially Sherry, because she's still hung up on that. And I think that's the only way that you can progress these characters any further. And it'd be a great reunion. You have Dead City currently dealing with the Saviors. It makes sense to bring back all the remaining Saviors into one show. And that would definitely improve Dead City. It's also pretty easy for Dwight, Sherry, and maybe June to get up to New York. We have Padre, which is currently on an island, which means they have lots of boats. Maybe Madison at the end of the season will be like, oi, take this boat, go and set yourself free. Go and find this man called Negan. And maybe those two or those three will take the boat and head north, maybe to Virginia again. They'll go to Alexandria, be like, oi, where's Negan? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, we set him free. He's currently chilling somewhere. And maybe that makes sense why they won't be in Season 2, but maybe in Season 3, where they finally track him down to Manhattan, and you have Negan in full Savior swing again, rebuilding the Saviors on the island. You then have Dwight and Sherry and potentially June. June's a bit iffy. I definitely do think Dwight and Sherry will be in Dead City. June is just, she could tag along, but maybe she couldn't. But I definitely do think Dwight and Sherry will be key in the final seasons of Dead City, and they'll be key to helping Maggie bring Negan back or taking Negan down. But as always, remember, this is just my opinion. I could be looking way too deep into us knowing we're going to get a Sanctuary episode. Maybe it's just going to be an episode they go up to the Sanctuary, they're like, wow, it was destroyed, they have all these flashbacks, they remember their lives there, and then they go back to Georgia and be like, well, we can move on now. Maybe that's simply it, but I really do hope it's going to be a start of them being like, well, we now have to go find Negan because we can't live our lives knowing he's still out there and not having some sort of closure on this chapter of our lives. That's what I think this episode is. It is not a closure for their story. It is the setting up the next chapter of their story. And it just makes more sense for me. We had those rumours that there could be another crossover a couple months back. We had rumours that like, oh, they're going to do something with Fear. There's going to be some sort of crossover. I think it was even before The Walking Dead kind of ended, or that was a separate rumour. But we had rumours, and without Morgan anymore, it's all down to Dwight and Sherry probably being the only crossover characters that could happen. But please tell me down below, what do you think about this idea that Dwight and Sherry are going to Dead City? And episode 9, Sanctuary, is the setup for their story to continue over at Dead City. I'd like to know all your thoughts down below. But this is it for me today. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll see you in my next video.